Good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Chopping It Up with Ramel. Listen, today we're going to get right into it. We're going to talk mainly NFL. If we can, we talk a little bit boxing with a big fight coming up at the end of the month. But I definitely want to dive right into the NFL. Today is NFL tip-off. We got week one about to begin tonight. Got a great in-division rival matchup. Green Bay against Chicago. Green Bay is on the road. So before we talk about that, the last time I was on the air, I talked about Dallas having to make a move to secure a deal with Zeke Elliott, and they did. I don't think Dallas has a chance to be a Super Bowl contender without Zeke Elliott. I believe Zeke is the best running back in the game. For how long, I'm not sure how that's going to last or how far it goes. But currently right now, I think his resume displays that. He's been the leading rusher for 2 of the last 3 years. The 1 year that he was not the leading rusher was due to a 6-game suspension, but he happened to lead the league with most yards per carry. I think he's the best running back in the NFL as we speak right now. But more so, what I want to talk about is they had to get that in place. His contract, I think it's the right contract. If he's the best running back in the game, he should be paid the highest. His contract is a little bit better than Todd Gurley's, and deservingly so. Gurley and his team did reach it to the Super Bowl, but with the resume that Zeke has piled up in the first 3 years of his young career, without question, to me, he's the number one back. I mean, his rookie year when Dak had a sensational year and won offensive rookie of the year honor, it could have easily went to Zeke. I mean, think about this for a second. A rookie running back leading the league in rushing. It could have easily went to him. And when we talk about Zeke, I mean, Zeke is clearly a top 3 running back in this game, opposed to Zach barely topping off a top 15 quarterback in this game. But I'm not going to get into Dak. I do hope he gets his money. But I want to get into tonight's game. And I'm going with Chicago to win tonight's game. First of all, I'm going on the record. I may be of the minority when I say this, and I'm going to say it with confidence. Aaron Rodgers is the most overrated quarterback in the history of football. Now, does that mean he's not a great quarterback? No. Does that mean he's not good? No. But with all the hype and hoopla that surrounds this great, phenomenal quarterback, let me ask you guys out there, what has he done since the Super Bowl run? What has he done since the Super Bowl run? I ask again. I haven't seen any, we talk about Eli Manning, probably borderline Hall of Famer, or if he didn't have the 2 Super Bowl wins, he probably don't go to the Hall of Fame or whatever the case is. Whatever your argument is and whatever side of the ledger you're on, I'm okay with that and I'm fine with it. But he made a second trip to the Super Bowl, for crying out loud. Eli Manning has made a second trip to the Super Bowl. Can we say that about Aaron Rodgers? Can we really say that about Aaron Rodgers? Drew Brees perhaps could have had a second trip to the Super Bowl if it wasn't for that controversy play. But Aaron Rodgers, every time you hear any pundits or anyone talk about him, you would think he's the only quarterback to ever play the game. And because of that, I like Chicago. Not only Chicago to win tonight, but I like Chicago to win the division tonight. And I think that this year is the year of the decline of Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. With Minnesota being a solid team, Chicago being the darling of that division, young, Mitchell Trubisky, he's not jumping off the charts right now as a quarterback, but he's only going to get better. Khalil Mack anchoring that defense, being a leader, Ray Lewis, Lawrence Taylor type. I know those are strong words, but that's what he did for that team last year. Make no mistakes about it. We've seen him go from one team to the next. One team winds up with a top 3 pick, and the other team is in the playoffs. So I'm looking at Chicago being the cream of that division. They're probably gonna take off and start to be a better team. So I can see. Oh, we got a caller. Good afternoon. Chopping it up with Ramel.
What's going on? This T-Rex?
Is this who's on the line?
Yo, this Kinlaw.
Kinlaw, what's happening, Kinlaw? How you doing today?
Hey man, everything's everything. I'm good. About to hit this road. About to head up to ATL.
Oh, okay. Listen, I'm just doing talking about the Chicago Bears over the Packers tonight. Did you have something you want to talk about?
You know what? I'm liking the Bears in that game.
Okay.
Granted, Aaron Rodgers, contrary to what others may believe, say might be overrated. I like Aaron Rodgers. I think with Aaron Rodgers, you got a chance. However, I think many people know what the Bears are coming back with this season, especially after the emergence of quarterback Trubisky. You already know that Khalil Mack is going to possibly expected to have another stud year. The defense is going to be good. Then you have some playmakers with Cohen on the Bears side. With the Packers, you probably don't know the starting receiving core or the starting running back or anybody that's on the defensive side, especially with Clay Matthews being such an emotional leader that he was, being an anchor of that defense for such a long time. Now that he's no longer there, who's going to step up? So I think there's a lot of unknowns coming in this year with the Packers. So I'm taking Bears with the 3 points.
Yeah, I've never been a gambler when it comes down to point spread and so forth. But if you ask me who do you like tonight, I'm clearly going with the Bears tonight. I'm not a huge fan of Aaron Rodgers. I think he's the most overrated quarterback to play this game. And when I say that, that's not to diminish what he's accomplished, and that's not even to say that he's not a great quarterback or a good quarterback. But when you hear pundits talk about Aaron Rodgers, you think he's the only quarterback to ever play the game. And I'm just not a huge fan of his. To me, I make the comparison of Eli Manning. I say Eli Manning is a borderline Hall of Famer, but with his 2 wins, he probably gets in. But at least we could say Eli Manning had a second trip, had a second trip to the Super Bowl. Whereas, when is Rodgers ever going to get back to the Super Bowl? If he's just great quarterback and the best thing since sliced bread, why hasn't he had a second trip to the Super Bowl? And it beats me. I just think he's very overrated. But he's a great quarterback, but I think he's overrated. I like the Bears to win that division.
I'm leaning towards the Purple People Eaters on that division, the Northern NFC. Minnesota, they got playmakers with Thielen and the other kid. I forgot his name. And then obviously Childress, or what's his name? Cousins. Cousins is going to give you a chance. If he doesn't throw away the game, I think they have enough playmakers. You got Devon Cook coming back from a second year, coming back from a knee injury, which I think he's going to come. This is better year coming out. You saw what he was able to do in the preseason. Their defense being anchored down by the likes of the young linebacker Barr still. I think Minnesota is the most balanced team on both sides of the ball in that division. I will lean towards the Vikings.
Well,
go ahead.
I want to say, and I started off, and that was probably why you was calling. I started off by saying that I believe this is the year of decline for Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, because I believe Chicago is the cream of the division, and with them being young, they're the sexy pick or the sexy team, and Minnesota may be the complete team, but I just don't see Green Bay going forward really leaping those 2 teams in the division. I think that this is it for them. I'm not really feeling Green Bay's chances right now. And again, I'm a little bit sour on Aaron Rodgers. And then here's another thing too. You know, they just let go Mike McCarthy, so now you got a new regime. How does that work out? It's really like starting all over again. So, you know, it's going to be challenging. But Kinlaw, I appreciate the call. I know you're a Panthers fan. It's going to be a long season for you guys in Carolina. I guarantee you, if we
you gonna say you appreciate the call, but then segue to that, and then say, all right, we'll hit you back later.
yeah, because if I start talking Panther with you, then we'll be here all day. It become more like a personal call. You know how we do. So, but I will say this: if we polled the Carolina fans right now, I bet you 70-30. It'd be 70% in favor of keeping Cam and 30% talking about trading him and rebuild. I think if I'm Carolina, I would look at the possibility of trading Cam and looking to rebuild before it gets too late to trade Cam, because I think they maxed out with Cam.
He's not an easy trade, though. He's not. And you've known me. I've been critical of Cam some years back, so this is not the new wave for me. Matter of fact, there was times where you was like, yo, well, he's done this, he's done that. And I'm saying, no, you're not seeing it the way I'm seeing it.
Yeah,
where he's at year number 4, year number 5, he should be doing these things alongside of the greats or the elites that we compare him to, and I don't see him doing the same way. It's going to be a tough, if you were to entertain any trade possibilities with him, it'll be a tough trade, tougher than we'd ever expect, because he's only played in one system since when the Auburn win their national championship.
Yeah, that's probably about 8 years ago.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So he's, to me, him playing on any other franchise, unless they're running a Wildcat system, which a lot of other teams are not, and would you say Houston? And Houston is set with their franchise quarterback, so I just don't see him doing anything else.
And I understand that, but yeah, I got another call. I'm gonna let you go. All right.
All right.
Thanks for the call. Good afternoon. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Shawn E.
Oh, Shawn. How you doing, Shawn? Cowboys for life. Here we go.
It never stopped. It never stopped.
So I started off the show talking about that. I thought it was a wonderful thing that Dallas did sign Zeke, and I thought it was appropriate that they made him the highest paid running back in the game, because I think his resume for the young 3 years of his career has exhibited that he's the best running back in the game. So I think it was only fitting that he get that contract. So your thoughts on that? Because I know you probably wanted to chime in on that.
Well, you know, I agree with you 110%, T, man. Obviously, I was born and raised a Dallas Cowboy fan. Just the fact that real recognize real. And yes, he had me kind of biting my fingers for a second, because I know kickoff is Sunday night, man. So we got to, against the New York Midgets, we need to be all hands on deck, because think about it. It's a rivalry game, it's a division game. Football, those division games, man, those are precious. So you gotta capitalize on those if you're trying to get to where you're trying to go.
Yeah, and I started off by saying that in order for this, for the Cowboys to have a Super Bowl run or be a Super Bowl contender, they definitely had to have Elliott on board. And the fact that you're going to have him from game 1, even if you were somehow to lose because he's rusty or whatever, it's better to have him at game 1 than to have him at game 3, 4, 5, or 6. But I'm with you. I do think y'all beat the Giants on Sunday afternoon. But if you're going to have any kind of success, it's got to be with Zeke in the backfield.
Well, you know what? Like I said, again, you're on point. I mean, we do possess the best running back in the league. No disrespect to Barkley in New York, and you got some other guys, Gurley. I respect them guys, man. But for my money, he's all them guys in one. He's terrible, man. He don't think. Now, him and Goodell might go at him every now and then, but as far as being healthy, the guy is present when you call his name, and he shows up and shows out. And I just feel like the guy, I mean, he's a beast, man. You're talking about a guy 6 feet tall, 235 pounds, with a 4.4. And, he'll run over you or he'll run around you.
Yeah.
On top of that, T, don't sleep on this rookie from Memphis. It's going to be a nice little 1-2 punch. We already know who the one punch is, but hey, Robin, he's gonna have a nice Robin with him. You know, of course Zeke's back, man. But this young kid, Tony Pollard, man, I mean, he gonna come in and spell Zeke, man. He gonna spell him every now and then when he need a break. And it ain't like you're gonna be, completely get, garbage time when he comes in. Yeah. This young cat's nice, man. He's a home run hitter.
I got a chance to see some highlights of him and see a little bit of him during the preseason. And to your point, he ran the ball very well and he didn't look too bad. But the one thing I would say about the preseason, that this is really the first year that I didn't get excited about preseason because I think they robbed us as NFL fans. You didn't have major players playing. It looks like every game you had 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th string players in there. And, not to take anything away from anybody that looked good in preseason, but it's hard to gauge it when you're not going up against everyday NFL talent. And I think that's what we witnessed this preseason. And I wouldn't be surprised that in the first week or two, you see some either sloppy football or you'll see some injuries occurring because I think some of the heavy hitters that was sitting out and for the most part during preseason, it's just not going to be ready to play. And so it may not be your typical first 2 weeks of the season.
I agree. But I agree with that, T, but I'm going to add something to what you said. And I do feel like if you have, for example, the NFC East has they got two division rivalry games. In other words, Dallas versus the Giants, or some people might call them the midgets, but all due respect. And then you got Washington and Philly, correct?
Yes.
So for the NFC East, those are pivotal games, man. So
whoever
wins each one of them games, man. Let me tell you something. It's not like college football when you lose the first game, you might as well go ahead and go on vacation. The season's over with.
Right.
But winning one of them 2 games, man, coming out of the gate, to me, it's kind of huge. It's going to make you kind of dot your I's and cross your T's on a little bit more earlier than you would maybe the second or third game because, man, like I said again, you don't want to drop that first division game, man. The season's not over, as you know. But, boy, I tell you what, it puts you in a nice position, though. It puts you in a nice position.
Yeah, it does. And losing game 1 to a division foe is almost like losing twice. And, and one of the things that I always speak about when it comes down to football, with a 16-game schedule, sometimes you don't have time to make up for a loss. You can go on a 3-game losing streak and, your season is over. You can go on a 3-game winning streak and next thing you know, what was a dismal season, now you're in the thick of things. So,
no doubt.
Yeah, so that's the beauty and the ugly of a 16-game season. So I'm with you. When you have these division games in week 1, you got to come out and
swinging.
You got to come out swinging. And just like tonight with Packers and Bears, I think this is a pivotal game. The loser could be out of the playoffs early.
Exactly.
So before I let you...
One more thing, T, before I get off the phone with you.
Sure.
I know we on air. You know me for a long time, family. We family. I'm going to tell you right now, my Cowboys this year, listen, you haven't heard me talk this way in a while. I mean, this team here right now that we're going to have on display Sunday night or Sunday afternoon is probably one of the best teams we've had, man, since... Oh wow, man! It's been a while. This is a strong team, man, top to bottom. I like it a lot. I really like the squad. I like the chances. I don't think everybody. I think honestly, I don't know what would you say. As far as having a legitimate chance to win a Super Bowl, I think it's about 6 to 8 teams. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think you got 10 teams in the NFC that's vying for a playoff spot. But I agree there's maybe a good 5 to 6 teams that can win that Super Bowl. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at the Giants 5-11, the Redskins 7-9, the Cowboys 11-5, Eagles 12-4. That's how I see the division shaping up. And I got the Eagles and the Cowboys both making the playoffs. I think that's how that division shapes up.
Well, one thing about you don't need glasses, man. You see very well. So when it comes down to that prediction, I like that 11. Listen, 11-5. You had a hell of a year, 11-5.
Right.
Obviously you had a better year if you're 12-4.
Yes.
So let's just swap that right now while we're on the phone and get it out of the way. Let's just go and give Dallas the 12-4 and give Philly the 11-5. That's not discriminating.
Yeah, you know what? We put a bottle of yak on that.
And let me tell you something. Hey, sip slow. Sip slow.
All right. Hey, I was going to touch on Errol Spence and Shawn Porter. I know you're a big boxing fan. I definitely got Errol Spence. He's the truth. I think that after that fight, we may be looking at possibly the best pound-for-pound boxer in the game. Errol Spence is that guy that his future is very, very bright. I don't see anyone stopping him unless he take on something that's just really too big for him, like trying to fight a Canelo or somebody like that. But right now, I think Errol Spence is heading to be pound-for-pound the best boxer in the game.
Well, right now, T, I got him right now. I do have him pound for pound #1 right now, though. And
Okay.
I love Canelo. There's a lot of other guys I really like a lot. But right now, for me, for my vote, I love Tank Davis. But obviously, you want him to kind of get a little bit more action with how echelon of opponents. So I have Spence right now as my pound for pound #1. And as he go against the tooth, I know Errol Spence is the truth and Shawn Porter is the tooth. So I tell you what, that the two T's. But it's gonna be a hell of a fight, man. Because I'm just joking with Shawn Porter, man, but he's a hell of a scrappy little Joe Frazier minus the left hook type of a guy. He's a lunchbox type guy.
Yeah.
But guess what? Last I checked, man, Spencer, they say he packs his own lunch. So it's gonna be a hell of a fight.
I agree.
I don't think it's going 12 rounds. I just think the size, the power, and the skill is going to overcome Shawn Porter. The style that Shawn Porter is going to implement against Spencer is not going to work. I mean, he might, his dad jumping up and down like he's Floyd Sr., but your son is not Floyd Jr. So he's going to find out. And I listen, again, I think me and you gave Shawn Porter on many occasions much due respect. I just think he overachieved in his welterweight division, first of all. I think he overachieved because he got so much heart, and it's hard to outwork him. But he's going to find out against Spencer, this ain't Danny Garcia, no disrespect to them other guys. This is the real deal right here, man. This guy can hit this guy's really a middleweight he's fighting.
Yeah,
Spencer, really a middleweight. He's like a junior middleweight. He's going to feel that extra 10 pounds, that punch.
Yeah.
And he's going to say, wow, man, it's a whole other level. It's going up different levels. And I commend Shawn. I know he's going to come in the ring with a 10-pound bag of confidence. But he's going to wind up, he's going to find out it's a hole in that bag.
Yeah. Well, hey, Shawn,
seep out.
I couldn't have said it any better. I agree with your assessment. I like Errol Spence a lot. I think he's going to win that fight. No disrespect to Shawn Porter. I just think he's overmatched in this one. But, Shawn, appreciate the call. And we'll talk soon. And let's go Eagles.
Okay, anyway, man. Yeah, you're right. Cowboys for life. Much love to you.
All right. Peace, man.
All right, man.
Hey, so that was Shawn calling in. He always delights us with his Cowboys references and so forth. He's one of the many, many, many good friends that I have that are huge Cowboy fans. Man, the Cowboys fans are thick. And you know what? To that credit, the Cowboys is one of those teams in professional sports, such as the Lakers, such as the Yankees, no matter what kind of season they have, no matter who's in uniform, their fan base is going to be strong, vibrant, and live. It doesn't matter. So give kudos to those fan bases because they stick by their team no matter what. And on top of that, they're always on television. So you can't get around it. I mean, there's not going to be a Thanksgiving Day without having the Cowboys on there. The Lakers, no matter what, they're always going to be on TV. The Yankees is always going to be on TV. So it's just those three teams is probably the most notable or most publicized franchises in professional sports here in the United States. But going along, so yeah, we was talking about tonight's game, and there's some games of notes that I want to speak on. I think Cleveland's going to win their game against Tennessee. I actually like Pittsburgh Sunday night. To all the Steelers fans out there, I like the Steelers tonight. Sunday night against New England. I think that New England is always vulnerable in the early parts of the season. It's just that they usually start out with somebody in their division that's always weaker than them, and they always wind up getting a win early on. But to start out against Pittsburgh on Sunday night, and I really think Pittsburgh, they got a lot to prove. You know, all the talk and chatter that was going on in the offseason, even some having the audacity to think that Mike Tomlin should be fired or maybe he's on the hot seat. Then you got Big Ben that's been some of the center of some of the conversation swirling between him and Antonio Brown. Then you had the Le'Veon Bell situation. So I think Pittsburgh, if there's any team out there that has something to prove this year, it's got to be the Steelers. And for them to make a statement or some kind of remark, it has to be done week 1 against the defending champions, the New England Patriots. So I like the Steelers. I like the Jets to beat Buffalo to start the season. Yes, I'm a Jet fan. I'm an Eagles fan. For those that don't know, Jets and the Eagles, if they play against one another, I'm going with the Jets. I became an Eagles fan because Randall Cunningham, and they had a black quarterback for nearly 30 years until Chip Kelly came and just destroyed that. As a kid growing up in the streets of New York, it was always said that Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love. Well, in the mid-'80s, they represented that by having Randall Cunningham as their quarterback, and they went from Randall to Rodney Peete to Donovan McNabb to Mike Vick to Vince Young, and then Chip Kelly came and got rid of everybody except for Riley Cooper, who was using the N-word. But that's a different topic. We won't get into that right now. Okay? But yeah, that's why I became an Eagle fan. But so there's going to be a good games, and as I mentioned to the callers, and I want to thank Kinlaw and Shawn, one thing about football with 16 games, the first game of the season can be just as important as any game of the season, especially if it's a division foe. So there's going to be a lot of matchups that's going to have some significance to it. I like Atlanta going into Minnesota this week. I like the Rams to go beat the Panthers this week. Unfortunately, as much as I would like to say Houston would go down to the Dome and play the Saints and get the win, I think the Saints is going to get the win this afternoon, Sunday afternoon. I believe the Saints will pull that out. Is it Sunday or is it Monday? I think it might be Monday. But I think the Saints pull out that win. I want to give my playoff prediction. And this was tough for me because I am a Jet fan and I did not have the Jets in the playoffs. And kind of bothers me. I think Sam Darnold is going to be a good quarterback in this league. I think that he showed a little bit of promise. And he didn't have a bad preseason, even though he didn't play that much. But when he was out there, he looked pretty sharp. And I think having Le'Veon Bell is going to take pressure off of him, and it's going to make his job easier and also elevate the Jets from past years. But I still think they come up short as a playoff team, but at least the arrow is pointing in the right direction for a change. And it won't be week 8, and we'll be talking about just in the season. So I have the Patriots winning the division. I have the Steelers winning the division. I have the Texans winning their division. And, of course, I have the Chiefs winning their division. And the 2 wildcard teams, I'm going to go with the Chargers and I'm going to go with the Browns. Yes, I believe the Cleveland Browns will have an 11-5 season and get into the playoffs. I think that the Cleveland Browns, from a total package in the AFC, may have the best crop of young talent on that team. Now, I could be in the moment right now, but I just think they're going to have some of the best talent. The Cleveland Browns is a team on the rise. They will battle the Steelers for the division. I think the Steelers will overcome with experience and even from the head coaching position, experience. but I do think the Browns is a legitimate team this year and a playoff threat. Out in the NFC, I have the Eagles winning the division. I have the Bears winning the division. I have the Saints winning the division. I have the Rams winning the division. And this is where it gets tough because you have several other teams between the Cowboys, the Seahawks, the Falcons, the Vikings, perhaps the Panthers, perhaps the Packers. You have about 5 other teams that I think that could really fight for a playoff spot. And I think it's going to go down to the Cowboys getting one of those spots. And with the acquisition of Jadeveon Clowney, I think Seattle gets the other spot. Despite what one might think about, the Seahawks, they made their Super Bowl run while with all the defense they had. Russell Wilson, he just continues to just get better and better. He's got 2 trips to the Super Bowl. He just continues to get better and better. He's very relaxed, poised, and confident in what he does. Doesn't matter what weapons he has or what weapons he doesn't have. Doesn't matter who's on defense or who they lose. He continues to excel. So I look for that to be the 2 wildcard teams, the Cowboys and the Seahawks. And then my playoff prediction, I'm not waffling from that, but I have Kansas City versus Philadelphia Eagles. It's the Andy Reid Bowl, and I have the Eagles winning it all because Andy Reid cannot sink the money ball. He just can't. He can't. He took the our Eagles to 5 consecutive NFC Championship games, just broke through once, and couldn't win the money game. So sink the money shot. So I have the Eagles beating Kansas City in the Super Bowl. I'm not waffling from that. And that's going to do it for the show. Tune in to next time. I appreciate all of you tuning in and commenting and those who called up. Until next time, peace and blessings.